Part one of getting onto Bricklink is to become a member and register. When you go to Bricklink, in the address bar, it's bricklink.com. You'll come to a page that looks similar to this. Click over under here to log in and register, and just keep continuing through on everything you need to do. So registering there, you'll set up your account with all of your own information, set up a name, password, and just continue on through all of the checklists. I'm not going to go through all of that. I've already got an account. You should be able to make it through that phase nice and simply. And once you've done and you've logged in, stay tuned and I'll show you how to start searching for the parts that you want. Okay, so you've now set yourself up. You've got your Bricklink account and you'll come to a page like this. So up on the top, you've got a series of little click buttons. You've got a store if you're setting a store up. You don't have to set a store up, it's only there if you're looking to sell on Bricklink. My Bricklink opens it up and you've got all sorts of options in there for messages, profile, activity, your orders and so forth, and your wanted list, which goes into some parts, and we can go into that later. And then most importantly, your cart for when you're ready to buy. From this page you can go through everything that you need. You set yourself a profile photo. You get scores here, so each time you buy and or sell and you leave feedback, you actually get a score, and then the higher up your score, you get changed colors, bricks, and everything there. So when you're buying and or selling, just remember to leave feedback for the other party. It's good so that other people can see how well your experience was, and they also get some feedback as to how well they went. You can see here that if you've got orders on the go, invoices, shipments, drive-through, as you sort of get more advanced into it, you'll find that these numbers just continue on. That's there as well. I have a selling and buying account, and it helps keep track of everything. Orders placed, feedback, and coupons. Coupons are great. As you sort of go through, you might favour a store, or you might buy from a particular store and they can send you coupons, and they can be anything from percentage discounts or dollar discounts or dollars off or anything like that. Okay, so the reason that you're here is to search for all things Lego. The main things that you're going to be looking for are sets and all parts. The sets side of things is simple. You can either go across to market here and you can go down and you can have a look at sets. You can browse through the entire list of sets by theme. If you've got lots and lots of time, go for it. But you're going to have a bit of an idea of what you want. So over in the search bar, you can either search for sets by the set number. And if you don't know that and you know what it's called, for instance, you want to find the Porsche, you type in Porsche, go for enter, and then you'll find this page. Now it's going to bring up everything Porsche related. So any parts that have the word Porsche in it will be listed here, any mini figures that have the word Porsche, but for what we want for the time being, we're going to go to sets. And you can see that there are 11 Lego sets that have the word Porsche in it. So let's say we're going to go and buy ourselves the 911 GT3 RS. Click on that link and here you go, you've got yourself a page. You've got some fantastic information, when it was released, how much it weighs, how big the packaging is, and whether or not it comes with instructions, how many parts are within that set, and then over here, I'll explain that to you later on. When you set up a store, you can actually see here whether or not you have it in your store. If you've got a wanted list, for instance, so you want this set, you can add it to your wanted list, which is what we'll go to later on. And My Collection. My Collection's a newer feature. You can actually log and record all of the Lego sets that you own here on Bricklink. Let's say you want to buy this set. You go down to the price guide, and this gives you a general overview of prices that are expected. The Australian market's a little bit different because obviously sort of our reach is a bit smaller, and don't use this as the price that you can buy the set for or that the set will be going for. Use this as a guide. The last 6 months sales shows you how many brand new sets were sold, how many used sets were sold, and the prices. Down on this list here, you can see that in May there was one sold for this sort of price. You can see here that there's a couple of sets that were sold, and it lists what they were sold. The price depends entirely on condition, location, whether shipping was included. So again, it's an indication only. If you want to find out what's actually available and how much it's going to cost you, come across to the items for sale. And this goes for all Lego sets. To help reduce the sort of, I guess, returns, come across here in Australia. We want to find out how many sets are actually here in Australia, and we're going to go from there. So we've got 4 for sale. Let's say there was more than 4 and we only want to look at new sets. So we get rid of the new sets and we want it to be sealed, obviously complete, and we're not interested in incomplete sets. So we search for that. Sure enough, all 4 are brand new. And this is where the difference lies. Brand new in box, has the outer cardboard box. Still in the shipping box. This one here, he's got no particular information, and this one has in the outer box. But you can see there's an $800 difference between the highest and the lowest, and different stores, depending on where they're located, will also have shipping costs. Let's say you want to buy this one. Go to this store, and away we go. So you can see here, he'll have all of his, the store will have all of its own conditions and everything else. If you want to add it to your cart, which will then open it up into the cart, and then you go through and you can work it out. As you go into each store, this particular store has how many orders that they've had, how many fans, and then also his feedback rating. If you want to go into that, you can click onto each of those and you can see further information. Alright, so we're back on the set page here, and we can see that we're back to looking at this. Let's say I wanted multiple sets, and I wanted to see whether or not there was one seller who has multiple sets. The simplest and easiest way to do that is to set up a wanted list. So what we can do here is we can go add to wanted list, and it's going to ask me what sort of wanted list. So I want to set it up. I want to go into my new wanted list, and I'm going to call it my Porsche wanted list. So I've created that list, and I want to have one Porsche, and I want it to be in new condition. And I can set how much price, or the dollar value that I want to spend on it, whether there's any remarks, and if I want to be notified by email. What that means is that if someone was to list this set for sale and it's on my wanted list, I'll get an email to say that this particular store has listed this set for sale, and I can go to that. So if I add that to my wanted list, you can see now that it's on my wanted list, and I go back to my Porsche page, and let's say I want this set as well, and it's nice and simple. I add that to my wanted list, come over here to my Porsche wanted list, and away we go. So now that I've got those 2 sets, let's see whether or not I have someone who has both of those sets. So we went up here to the wanted list, checked out my wanted list, and I've got my Porsche wanted list. The quickest and easiest way to find out what I have available is go over to Easy Buy. So Easy Buy says that I've got 2 sets, and I want to find out, and I want to see whether or not I can get both of those sets from any stores. So unfortunately, here in Australia, I can't get both of those sets from any particular store. But it tells me here that I've got this particular store in Russia or this particular store in Sweden. They actually have both of my sets, but not together. They are the cheapest available sets. What you do from there is you can just refine and change up your purchase, and then you can choose how to buy from there. If we go down, select all, buy both of those. This then goes into a purchase option where you can then fine tune where the store is, whether they accept Australian dollars, instant checkout. Obviously, if I don't like a particular store, I can lock those things out and I can go into there, I can refine it down. Now in this particular wanted list, there is no stores available in Australia that have both of the sets in the store. So unfortunately what that's going to mean is either I can sit back and wait, or I've got to then purchase them from 2 different stores. And unfortunately what that means is 2 lots of shipping. Okay, so that's a basic sort of overview for purchasing sets, multiple sets, and setting up wanted lists. Let's say for instance though, I'm not after a set, I'm actually after parts, but I don't know what those parts are. I do know that those parts come in this particular set. I've got this set, which is the new Speed Champion Porsche, and I'm missing some parts. I can see in the back of the instructions that the parts are there, and they've got this big long-winded number, but I can't search for those, or I've lost the instructions, however it be. So what you can do is you actually go over to here and you can see that there's 1 minifigure and 276 parts. So we click on the parts and it gives me a full rundown of every single part that's in that set. And you'll see here, if we scroll back up, that this particular part is a brand new part. So it's a part that was never used before, it's new and very probably exclusive to this set. So let's hope that you haven't lost that particular part. I find that the easiest way, if I'm trying to do a sort of a search list of what's missing on my set, or if I'm trying to find something, is I go to this particular tab here, which is the set inventory, and it will allow me to then do a plus. Now that plus will be, I can add that to my inventory, or I can add that to my wanted list. So as a buyer, that's what you're wanting to do. So you go down, you'll search through, and you can change the way this looks. You can change it from the color to the part number or anything else like this. I always find the colors the easiest. So let's say we're missing this particular door, and I want to add it to my Porsche wanted list, and I only need 1. Now also, you'll see here that it's going to tell me that that's on my wanted list. So later on, if you're going through sets and you're like, oh, I need this part, and you actually see, oh, hang on, I need this part for another set. It's a nice, quick, easy visual way to see what's missing. And you can see here there's a few others that have been tagged for another wanted list that I've set up. And if we go down and let's say we need a steering wheel, but let's pretend we need 3, so we just change the quantity. I've left here as condition as any. The reason is, when I do a search later on for that part, it will search for new and used parts, and you can choose which ones you want from there. And then let's say we need the stickered part. So we've got the set, we bought it as a used set, and we're wanting the parts that have the stickers on it. Because this set's still very new, it's not actually going to come up with a list of stickered sets, stickered parts, sorry. But down the bottom, when you scroll all the way down the bottom, you'll have extra parts or counterparts, and that'll show you parts there that have stickers on them, or it'll have a hinge that has both the left and right hinge piece, or a wheel that has the wheel hub and the actual tire itself, and that's where you can search for those. But let's say we want this little fella in our list as well. We add him over to our Porsche list, and now we want to buy those parts. So we go back up the top, we go to our wanted list, and here's our list. So again, we can go over to Easy Buy, which will then just find us the 2 cheapest, and you can see here that this particular store has both those parts available in the store, and it's at this price. If I was to go in there, go into the cart, it's going to be this price plus the shipping and handling costs, and we can purchase from there. If you're wanting to do it with a little bit more customization, you highlight both the parts, I want to buy both of those. And again, here we go. I can actually see, all right, there's a couple of stores that have both of them in there. And then I can choose this particular store, and unfortunately he has a minimum buy of $20, which means that until my cart reaches $20, I can't actually check out. So then I look into these two stores here, and then I can swap and look into which one I prefer. All of these other stores have only one or the other. One thing to keep in mind is that most stores will charge somewhere in the line of between $9 and $13 for postage, and that's simply because Lego is bulky, and Australia Post, once it reaches above a certain height, you can't actually send it off in a standard envelope. So a $9 to $11 postage will be for 2 small parts like what we've just ordered, or 20 or 30 small parts. So the best thing to do is to actually save up a few wanted lists, put a few together, and then do a bulk order. You're going to be able to save then on your postage costs. All right, so we've covered looking for and searching for sets. We've then looked at one very basic way to go through and find parts. Let's say that you're missing instructions, or you actually want to buy the original box. So you've gone out on Marketplace or somewhere else, you've purchased the set, and you're wanting the box. So again, if you type in Porsche as our sort of general sort of search term, and you come back to this page, you don't know which particular Porsche set that you've got, but here we go. Let's say we've got this along the top here above the rest of the menus. You've got the set entry, which is the as the actual Lego set itself. You've got a tag there for instructions and the original box. So if you click on the instructions, it's just the same as looking at all the other pages, but this here actually lists how many people have that set's instructions for sale, and you just go through and purchase and or add them to your wanted list as you need to, and it will also tell you the price guide. Over the last 6 months, only one's been sold at 87 cents. There are 31 currently on the market, and the average price there is around your $1.75. And the same goes for the box. There's only 6 items for sale with the box, none here in Australia, and the prices vary. One of the things that you need to look at if you're going to be buying the box, especially with say some of the bigger sets, is they come with internal boxes. So always just ask the seller exactly how it's going to come, whether or not it has the internal boxes, and unfortunately it's going to be expensive postage because the box is great big and empty. In this particular case, you've got it your size dimensions there, and that's what Australia Post is going to charge on. They're not going to charge on the fact that it's only 75 grams, they're going to charge on its cubic weight. So the postage for this is probably going to outweigh you purchasing it. Okay, so we've got ourselves our wanted list, and we've got our Porsche wanted list. I've added a few more items in here just to sort of give you a bit of an idea. We can go down and I've got that list. Let's say I'm going to visit our store, which is the L Bricks or L Parts store. That's not what I wanted. Let's go to visit store. Now let's say we've got more than one wanted list, but in this particular case I've just done the one, and we want to go to our favorite store and we want to buy something just on a whim, and we've selected, say for instance, Fozzie the Bear, and whilst we're there we're like, oh, let's just check to see whether or not he has anything that we need in our wanted list to sort of make that that postage worth it. So you can actually check within each store's inventory whether or not they have things in your wanted list. So you can go across here, and if you click on wanted list, and then if you've got a list of wanted lists here, you can select and unselect from there, and then it will tell you what this particular store has from your wanted list. And you can see here that you need one of this set, and the store has 4. You need 1, the store has 8. You need 1, the store has 41. So from your wanted list, you can actually then go to the store and you can pick from the store's inventory out of your wanted lists. And that's a really good way to top up your purchases and sort of help make that or help justify that postage. So we've had a look at a couple of ways on how to search and add things to your wanted list. Let's say that you've purchased this particular Porsche and you've got it from Marketplace, and like always the seller has said that it's complete and it's not. And you don't want to have to go down here through the set inventory, and you don't really want to have to find what part's what and sort of work out what you're missing. You know, you've broken it all down and you've got all the parts laid out, and you want to tick it all off before you start building. So if you go over to the wanted list, you can add the entire set to your wanted list, or you can actually part it out. And this is the method that I use to do a set inventory to make sure that everything's done before I build it. There's nothing worse than getting into a build, enjoying it, and then finding out that you're missing some parts. So if you click on part out, it then brings you over to this page here. This is this particular set. You only need one of them. And what do you want to add into your part out? Do you want to add the original box? Do you want to add the instructions? So let's say we want to add the instructions, but we're not too concerned whether it has the box. I want to create a new wanted list so that it's just for this particular part, and you can name it whatever you like. I name mine by just a quick description so that when I'm searching I can find it, and then I put in the set number. This particular one, 10295. You can then choose whether you want to put them in new, used, or otherwise, and if you want to put any remarks. So we come in here, we submit that to edit, and then this is going to then go through and list every single part that's in this set. I probably should have chosen a set that has less parts, but that's okay. And this is where I was talking earlier in relation to parts that are either stickered or if they're actually printed. And we can see here that they list them as, and you'll see that the part numbers actually have different little parts, and it sort of breaks them out. So that's where, if you're after this particular part and you actually want it to have the number plate on it, that's the full part number. Whereas the 2x4 tile, the part number is 87079. So if you're not particularly concerned about having the actual printed part, you can change that to just that part number and get rid of these last little designations. Let's submit that to our wanted list, and now we want to view it. So keeping in mind that we've got our set laid all out on the table, and we've either sorted them by color or part type, and again you can change the way this looks. Then all I do is I go down, and as I find each part, I tick it off. Once I've ticked them all off, let's say I come down to this particular bracket and I've got only 2 of them. So I need 4 for the particular set, and you go in and I've only got 2. I find that sometimes later on when reading my wanted list, trying to work out haves and wants is just a little bit complicated for just quick viewing. So on my method of doing it, I actually change it from wanting 4 and I change it to wanting 2. That way at a quick glance I can quickly see how many I need, rather than working out how many I've got on hand and how many is outstanding. And we go through, and as you go through that, you'll go through and you can save the changes. So you save the changes, but you've got to also remember that we've actually selected a few of these items that we've actually found in its full quantity, and delete those. So now our set inventory is updated with what the parts we have, and you would do that until you've only got a handful of parts left, and then you can then use your wanted list and make a bulk purchase, or you can save that wanted list for when you've got some time and you're going through your own little parts collection. One of the things that you'll see with different parts and different Lego sets is that people will look to complete their set in a number of different ways. The purist will sit there and they will say that the part must have exactly the same as it came in the set, whereas a lot of builders are just happy to have the set built. And Lego has this wonderful way of creating a number of parts that have variance. That being that they all operate and look to be the same on first inspection. However, when you look at them a little bit more closely, they do differ. One particular example is this particular claw. So if we go into that particular part number, you can see here that that's its part number and there's an alternate part number. But when you look down through the descriptions, you can see that there are a couple of variants. And unfortunately, on close appearance, this particular set looks similar to two others. So if we have a look here, there's a couple of key factors in the design and the shape of it. And if we go over to this particular one, you can see on appearance it looks to be the same, but there was a couple of differences. The last one had a pinhole here and the design was slightly different. And then this has an undetermined type, which simply means that this was the original type before they've identified and logged the two differences. So you can see here that part number B has the cut edges and a hole, and part A has the rounded edges. So as far as function goes for your set, they all do exactly the same thing. They all work the same, and on sort of just casual glance, they are exactly the same. However, that particular Porsche set has part item B, which is this part, which is the newer one. If you're not too sure on casual glance as to what the differences are, you can actually click into some of these photos and it will show you what the differences are as a side-by-side comparison. But even more confusing is these two parts actually fall under the same part number, but there are variants within the parts. So when you're doing inventories and checking, it becomes an absolute nightmare to try to identify which one's the correct one, which one's the new one, which one's the old one. And you can actually see here some parts, especially on older vintage sets, when they were released and how long they run for. So this particular claw is still in production today, starting back in 2006. We go back to part A. So the older claw actually stopped production in 2007. So shortly after part B was released into production, this one stopped being released into production. So if you're looking to complete a vintage set with the original parts true to the set, you're going to need to make sure that it's this particular variant. But if all you're looking to do is complete the set for your own enjoyment and so that it's built and complete, then it doesn't matter. This becomes a little bit complicated when searching for the parts, and you've just got to be mindful that there will be variants, and that makes it a little bit hard when you're doing a wanted list, but you should be able to quickly identify by going through the part number. If it has a small letter afterwards, it's a nice easy way to show that it is a variant of the part.